Hello, well in this video I'm going to cover making chair stretchers using rotary planes. So in previous video I looked at how to make the chair stretchers using spokeshaves. This one's the rotary plane method. Probably quite a bit quicker actually than using a spokeshave. Fine if you have rotary plane set, that's really why I thought I'd include both videos. You can always make one, make your own set of planes, quite good fun. Okay, let's get underway. I've got a few rotary planes. I've got these ones which I sandcast in aluminium. I've even got one made in brass, and this one actually is worth considering. I made the patterns myself and then sent it off to an auto repair specialist who had the brass foundry, and they cast it for me. But it works really well. What's also worth considering are the wooden ones, and here's a wooden one I made. Very simple, it's just a spokeshave blade set into a piece of wood which has a tapered hole in it, and this isn't essential but I put a little metal outlet on there. So there you are, that's my planes. I'll show you my little engine I used to power this for turning the pieces of wood, and let's go from there. What I call my stale engine. This is a little bit of homemade kit that I use for turning the spindles, and it works really well with the rotary planes. So what I have, I put a chuck here, and I've got some little insert chucks which slot in, and then an Allen screw to tighten up, and you can clamp your pieces of wood into the chuck like that. I'll take the camera off and you can see a bit more detail of the actual machine. So what I have is a little low power motor here, and take that off. It's all fairly Heath Robinson this. I've got a little pulley system, and essentially what that does, it takes the chuck revolutions down to about 200 revolutions per minute, 200 RPM. Little on-off switch. I say these little split collet systems, so they're my little split collet chucks. And if I just turn this motor on, hope you can hear me now still under this noise. It's not too noisy, but there you are, that's the pulleys working away, and it takes the speed down and rotates the chuck. So let's show you making an actual spindle, that you can see how it works in practice. Okay, so I've got my little split collet chuck here, just simply 2 halves of metal. Pop that in the chuck. I then have a piece of green wood timber prepared. That's just been draw knifed on my shave horse. Then I tighten that up, and that sort of just holds it. Not superbly strongly held, but it does hold it. Get my rotary plane ready. You can just about see that coming in the picture, and switch on. Oops, there we are. It's quite difficult doing this with the camera in the way, but it's jiggling a bit more than it normally would, because I'm not standing in quite the right place, but I think you get the idea. So that's the first pass cut. There we are. Take that out. There we are. Right, I can now go down a size with the rotary plane, so I'm now going down to a slightly smaller one. Oops, this is quite a bit off actually. I may have to stop her, we'll see. There we are. And it's just like a pencil sharpener. You need very sharp plane blades for this. But I'm quite good at sharpening. Some of my friends will say when they see my axes. There we are. Right, so that's like a chair rung made up. Let's stop that. So I've got a chair rung there. I haven't got the blade set entirely right. It's a little bit of grooving, but it's not bad. And one can, if one wants to, then clean off using a trapping plane. So, and I mean, look at these. Look at that. It's not bad, is it? Right, so trapping plane is just got a single blade, but it's quite nice sometimes for getting a little bit clean up. Of course you do change the diameter, but there. One chair rung. Slot that in, tighten her up, and once again I can just finish off that end. There we are. And one can once again use the trapping plane just to neaten off. That's another spindle made. Now the idea with these, I'm going to turn them at the moment like this, and then I'm going to dry them in my airing cupboard for about 3 weeks because they're still quite wet. And what I'll do, I'll also turn up the chair legs themselves, but I won't dry those. Those will still be wet. And then what I'll do, I'll joint these dry spindles into the wet chair legs, and that will get a really strong joint as the chair legs dry. I say you can make these trapping planes yourself, so don't be put off. I mean, it's very cheap to make actually. So it's a spokeshave cutter, wooden block with a couple of handles, a hole, and it's not critical the entry and exit dimensions. I mean, obviously the exit dimension determines the size of the spindle you're going to produce. So this one's exactly 5/8, and I've actually drilled through a metal block to get that at 5/8 of an inch. But it's very straightforward really. The blade is just a tangent to the actual conical hole. I mean, I did this conical hole on a metal lathe. You could do it on a wood lathe if you're fairly careful. Again, it hasn't got to be supremely accurate. Anyway, I'll just show you the homemade one as well in action. A little bit of blade adjustment. Now this one hasn't got quite the same sophistication in terms of blade adjusters, so it is a little bit more tricky. Try that setting. Doing it's a little bit rough. I need to reset that. It is a bit more trial and error to get the blade setting right. So you're seeing it warts and all, which I think is the best way. There we are, let's try that. It's still grabbing a little, but actually don't be put off by that, because the trapping plane is great for the tidying up. Once you get a shaving like that, you know you've got a smooth surface. So back down. Then you can vary the pressure with the trapping plane, so that's now smooth. Like that. So there you are. You see, that is actually, and if I take the camera off and show you that surface, you'll see what I mean. There's nothing wrong with that as a surface. So that's just using a homemade one, which actually I haven't tuned up quite so well as the other ones, but it lets you see perfectly feasible to make your own. When I visited the Jeffrey Museum to photograph their chair, I actually produced some photos and then put all my measurements on the photographs, and I find that's a really helpful way. I also do little photos and I note features like, you know, I've got here more taper at joints, or thick with little taper at joints, and relatively clumpy, and just sort of gentler bow, just really so I understand how the chair works. You get a certain amount of information off the photographs and seeing something, but it's actually when you can record and just take note. So I've got massive little measurements on this one, but again it's really just to help get the chair as accurately represented as I can. Well, it's like autumn in my workshop. I have a huge pile of shavings now from using the Rotary Planes, and I have a good little collection of spindles there, so coming on quite well. I have a little template I use to help sizing on things, just to check my sizes, just simply holes drilled into a piece of wood. It's quite useful. But I hope you found my demonstration of using the rotary planes quite helpful in terms of seeing how they work and what their capabilities are. I've got a nice collection of stretchers now, which I'll be putting into a nice warm place in my airing cupboard to dry out, and then they'll be ready for assembly into the chair itself. A few for the back of the Sussex chair I'll be holding back, and I'll actually be bending those, and I'll cover that in another video.